Who else we got?
Roger.
Roger, stand up and be recognized by your peers. Peers, thank your organizers. We have a scintillating show. Education is the theme. First app up here, truapp, was one that I touched last week at the Empower Career Fair, where many of the employers and the students are finding their answers through this platform. Moses worked previously on another app that I touched with the Raw School, Lens. That's an app that allows you to download Raw's case studies. So this is a fellow who knows what he's doing. He knows this turf. Let's give it up, please, for Moses Lee and truapp.
Should I plug this in here? Oh, I thought you had. My bad. Well, this is yours. I gotta set up my 5-minute timer here. Hello? Okay, great. Well, I'm really excited to be here today to talk to you about our company called truapp. What we're trying to do is change the way that students apply for and get evaluated for anything. The common standard of applying for opportunities these days is what you see up here called a resume. Now, a lot of us who've ever done recruiting can testify that resumes are a really poor example of reviewing and assessing talent, especially college talent. When students here at the university have very limited experience, and you're reading a resume that says, I work at a cafeteria, I work at Barnes & Noble. Now, does that really give you really rich insight into the quality and fit of a student? We don't think so. We think that this paper type template that you see up here is a very poor example of what a student is capable of doing, and we want to change the way that students apply for and get evaluated for opportunities. And we're first starting with the market of college students and companies because we think that this is the right area for disruption. Now, I'm going to show you this demo that we have up here. This is truapp. Now, a lot of you, when you're reading resumes, you get a really bland view of a student, but on truapp, you get a really dynamic portfolio of a student and all the work that he or she has been doing. So let's just click on this and look at the student called Lydia. Now, when you get to Lydia's profile or portfolio on truapp, you're able to see a rich demonstration of all the different things that she does as a student. Things that you'd never really be able to depict or understand by looking at a resume. On the left-hand side here, you can see all the different skills that a student may have. So let's just pick one of these. Let's pick design here. Then on the right-hand side, you can see some of the different examples that she has done as a student here at the University of Michigan around design. Or if you go to click on UI design, right? For example, on the right-hand side, you can see the different types of examples that she's done with UI, and actually click on the actual work. So you can see, hey, this student really has done some pretty cool and amazing things here at the university. Let's just go look at another example. Here's Laura. She's a BS in Industrial Operations and Engineering, and you can kind of look through her site and say, hey, this is kind of some information about her as an individual, some of her leadership positions, but then you can click on the right-hand side and actually look at some of her work, some of her experiences that she's done here as a student. So, for example, this is her reimagining domestic spaces, and she can actually see some of the work, the mock-ups that she's done. You can look at her pictures, you can kind of get a sense of her personality. You can actually look at her PDFs of some of her projects that she submitted here as a student. You can actually kind of look at kind of interests that she's had. You can look at her experiences that she had traveling Europe. Now, what is this all doing, hopefully, for a recruiter? It's giving richer insight so that you can make better hiring decisions. We've talked to a lot of different recruiters, and they say, hey, listen, I want to understand personality, I want to understand fit, I want to understand technical competency and quality of work. But it's very, very hard to assess, and by the time you end up interviewing someone you really, really don't even know. So how do we allow for greater information to pass through from student to recruiter? Now, we've launched our alpha product. We have about 500 some students on here. And let's just say in the future, you want to go on here and you want to kind of search through different types of students who are on here. And all of us here, we're looking forward to computer science engineers, so you can type in an algorithm and really get a quick sense and a quick glance. We're continuing to develop this, but you can look at all these different types of students on here and actually look at what they're doing, look at some of their work that they're working on, and get a sense of their personality fit. And you can actually use this as a recruiting mechanism to really go after top talent here at the university. We're also opening up an interface for companies. So for example, we blasted out recently to a number of different companies. They can build profiles on here that students can discover. Now what we've also realized from a lot of different students is when they're looking for jobs, what they're really concerned about is, well, am I going to fit in with the culture of this organization? Am I going to like the people? Do I get a better sense of the mission that they're involved with? So this, our application allows companies to pitch themselves to students as well. So you can see, here's an example of OWN. You can see kind of the videos, the pictures that they've uploaded. You can kind of see why work for us, a summary of them. And you can actually click on here, look at culture, what kind of people are working there, what's a workplace like. You can even look at Flair. They have Wet Fridays here. Now these are things that are intriguing to students because they want to work for an organization that really speaks to them, that's really compelling to them. And most of the typical job boards that you see are really, really light on this type of information for students. Now, we recently did a demo and a test with Are You a Human because we wanted to test the concept. And I just want to kind of read to you what the feedback that we got from Reed. Many of you know from Are You Human. He said, after reviewing 85 resumes yesterday, I really see the value in truapp. The project-based approach of the truapp I looked at was so much better. Trying to identify skills from one sentence on a project that people put on their resume is difficult. It's especially bad with undergrads since they don't have direct experience to speak to. So we really feel that we can disrupt and change the way students get evaluated for any opportunity, and hopefully this is just a launching point and we'll be able to bring our platform to many different universities and many different companies such as yourselves. Thank you.
Moses Lee, truapp. All right, now the challenge with A2NewTech, ask excellent questions. You will be graded on the quality of your questions. And the first one's from Doug.
So I don't know if you've seen any of LinkedIn's recruiter tools, right? And I guess as they say, like LinkedIn is where you go to find reasons to hire someone, and Facebook's where you go to find reasons not to hire someone. You guys seem to be kind of glomming a little bit of that kind of together. And one of the issues in for instance, some of the LinkedIn recruiter tools is they do things like hide the personal profiles and images for compliance, because a lot of large employers, right, it's actually an issue. If someone gets hired or not, based on things like what they look like, right? Have you given that much consideration to those kind of controls for larger employers?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've actually been working with the Career Center here at this College of Engineering, and we've actually talked about a number of the different issues that were involved. So we've actually been talking to them about when you do an initial search, right, the profile pic could be masked, and some of the images that are of the student can be masked so that you can kind of really search based on skill, you can search based on degree, search based on just project alone. So we're actually working on a number of those different things, and one of the really exciting things is there's a possibility that we could become one of the standard platforms for the College of Engineering here at the U, and we want to definitely adhere to some of those rules. But yeah, that answers your question.
I think mine was actually related. Have you had any companies that refuse to use it just because of the availability of the pictures? Because I know that a lot of companies really prefer not to have pictures available because it opens the door for allegations of discrimination if the person doesn't get the job.
Yeah, so well, that's an interesting thing. So when a company builds a profile and does a search, we need to be very alert and aware of how they actually do the search. So for example, you can't search by race, you can't search by gender, things along those lines. So I think one of the things we definitely want to highlight going forward is that you can actually search by work output. So for example, if I'm looking for a PHP programmer and I type in the search button PHP, I can actually look at work before I actually even see who the student is that actually did that. So one of the things that we talked to a number of companies about is they really like that function to be able to look by project, look by work output, rather than even just looking at the student at the beginning.
How do you make money?
Awesome. Well, so one of the ways that we were planning...
Thank you.
Companies. You want me to answer that question?
Yeah, how do you make money?
Great. So right now we've been talking to a lot of different companies about their budgets and willingness to pay. We did find some research that found out that the cost per hire for an undergrad is about $8,000. We talked to a number of different companies. They spend a lot of money to come here for recruiting, come to recruiting fairs, to spend money to travel. Imagine if you're able to do all your recruiting in a more dynamic way, all online, at multiple universities. So we definitely have found that there's a willingness to pay in a budget from companies to pay for something like this.
But not universities? Do the universities pay?
So that's another option that we have been exploring, is that could we become the platform for universities to pay? So that's another a potential revenue source or customer. Right now we're focused on the customers, but though we are listening to universities as an option to become their platform and to pay for that.
Jeff.
How are you acquiring customers on both sides, both the students and the employers?
So how are we acquiring students and companies? So an interesting thing here, on the student side, one of the great things that we've been finding from this is there's a significant viral nature to this. So a lot of students have their own URL. So for example, every single one of these students here has their own unique URL, and they've been at BH Burke. So an interesting about him and other students is they've been posting it on Twitter, Facebook. So one of the great things about this is they're very proud of this being their landing spot online for all their work in their more professional sense. Something that you won't get on LinkedIn. So that's one in terms of students getting and signing up other students. So just on viral nature in last month, about 500 students. On the company side, one of the great things is we're actually currently building an API, and we're actually in the middle of working with a company in town, not in town, but in Detroit, that does job sites. And we're building an API that could potentially link all of our students to their jobs. So for example, one way to scale is potentially link itself to some company like Hired My Way or careerbuilder.com or monster.com. Here are all the jobs. We have all the students. And let's do a revenue share. And we're actually in the middle of negotiating a revenue share with a company just like that.
Very cool. 4, 3, 2, go.
Right here.
How easy is it to put together your profile? How long does it take a student?
Yep, so this is our minimum viable product. We've gotten tons of design feedback from students. We're going to make it easier and easier for students to actually upload it. It does take some time. It takes more time than building a resume because you actually have to think about the work that you're doing. Though one of the great things that we've talked about at the university is if you got a truapp to a freshman as an undergrad here, they can build this thing throughout the next 3 to 4 years and use it for every single thing that they're applying for. Use it to apply to a company, use it to apply to grad school, use it to apply for all sorts of different opportunities because we think this is the way of the future. How can we better represent students, allow them to showcase their true skills in their work? And so we think that there's incentive here from students. We're playing around with some different star systems and point systems so that the more you actually upload, the more you have more opportunities you have and more you're better presented. Like you're a 5-star recruit if you complete all the different milestones on here, and companies will know that.
Moses Lee, truapp.
Woo! All right, last thing is if you want to sign up for our demo, you can go to this webpage here, truapp.me, alpha recruit with a capital R. Thanks.
If you recruited at the Acar Career Fair, you got this link in, you know that. All right, while Jar comes up, I want to tell you about A2NewTech's sponsors. These are the organizations that made this meetup possible month after month, year after year, beginning with A2 Geeks. Very happy to announce that A2 Geeks is now recognized by the Internal Revenue Service as a 501c3 charitable organization with an educational mission. So you got to check those people. A2 Geeks is a tax write-off. Also want to thank ZLI, which is definitely not a tax write-off, and Stafford and Baker, the law firm that campsite of the Tech Brewery, and Tech Brewery itself is a sponsor of A2NewTech News. I want to introduce you to Acar Altinsel and Goose. This is one of those projects that came out of the Hack A2-thon. Was that last one? 6 weeks ago, yeah. And I want to give a shout out to a member of the Hack A2-thon team, Kyle Walker, who's stood at this podium 4 times with new startups. He has some of his game in this one as well. Goosecast is honking and simple live casting, so everybody get on Goosecast right now. I want you to live cast Acar's presentation. Go.
Hi everybody, this project started...
you want a mic?
Or you can just... I can just... okay.
Or you can shout.
I can shout.
Use the mic.
Yeah, the boss says use the mic.
All right. That's great. Okay, so goosecast.com started in the hackathon that was just a couple months ago. And the idea is basically a way that you can live blog very, very simply, because we found that there just wasn't a tool that was very simple for this. The idea is that you and your cell phone, or you and a small group of people, can actually live cast an event, live blog an event. And actually, I've been live blogging this event since the beginning. So what I've created here from the app on my phone is just a series of pictures and tweet-style messages that are centralized in this embeddable web page, which is just at the URL is Goosecast. I can show it. That's the URL. It's Goosecast/channel/A2NewTech. And this could go on your blog. This can go on your company website. The target market right now for us is journalists, bloggers, newspapers, that sort of thing. We really want to be the go-to tool for newspapers and bloggers and journalists to live cast events. So the concept is very simple. The reason that this is needed in a world where Twitter exists is that this is a controlled environment. So if you're a company like a newspaper, it's very difficult for people to be able to follow tweets from a core of people, your team, without either making things overly complicated, or by, if you're following a search or following hashtags, to let the flood of people who want to post in. So a small group, 3-4 people, can go and invade, say, the auto show or CES. They can have on their blog, their newspaper, their journal, they can have this embedded, and they can just constantly be taking pictures, posting messages. So it's a pretty simple concept. I thought the best way to demonstrate this would be just, or to present this would just be with a simple demo. And our monetization goals are simply to charge for the service on a software as a service basis, monthly and annual fees. And that's really it. I hope that's not underwhelming as a presentation goes, but we have a pretty simple concept.
Not underwhelming. Applause. Okay, let's have some non-underwhelming questions. Zach.
I have so many questions. One is, how did you get those photos on there? Are you using a mobile app,
so
or
actually,
you
what
automatically?
we have 3 parts to our product. We have an iPhone app, we have an Android app, and we have the website. So you can very simply just load the app, and I can show you.
Take a picture of Zach. He asked the question.
Yep. So here I'm in a live blog.
Okay, that's not a disincentive, people.
There's a question from the front row. And if I were, or if my team and I were in the audience, we would of course be able to also text the answer, or the questions and the answers and stuff like that. But unfortunately I can't. So the idea is that then this is very simple. You can rapid fire post these photos. I apologize, the internet here is a little bit slow, but you may be able to, well, anyway. I'll move on to the next question while hopefully that loads.
Zach, how many questions did you have?
Actually, I had another one. I hear all the time about people who are looking for ways to moderate comments. You have someone who's like really focusing on the presentation delivery, but at the same time they want to be somewhat receptive to audience feedback. Have you given any thought to sort of like a side channel in addition to like the main presentation? How you could get like questions maybe voted up by people who are watching the stream, that sort of thing?
That is a very good question. We have not attacked that yet. We're still pre-launch, and so we're still working out the refinement of the product, and we're going to be focusing on just the presentation, the monetization of this simple product before we attack that. I should add, I forgot to mention, the technology behind it is real time, so there shouldn't be any need to reload pages, etc. So this is the kind of thing that you can go and you can sit and watch and just let it kind of wash over you. That was the idea.
Well, now that you've scooped yourself,
yeah.
This is a scoop machine.
Yeah.
You watch it, it's real time, it's happening now. Surely there's another revenue model than subscription for compelling real-time content. How else do you make money? That's my theme.
Well, the other ways that we had discussed making money were sort of the co-branding with events, specific events, in addition to the back end, which would be the journalists, to actually go to the other side and actually promote through the venues. For example, if there was going to be an event at, say, a car show, that brands that were at the car show could actually pay for additional exposure.
We'd have a branded channel.
Yeah.
And they pay some kind of an underwriting fee for folks to post on that channel.
Sure.
Good. Right here.
You should check out a company called Olepic.
Repeat the question.
OLAPIC. So it's my friends at Columbia MBA who are doing it, and it's almost the exact same theme or idea that you're trying to do. Is basically, I mean, it's somewhat similar. It's photo aggregation by user-generated content for publishers and content providers. So
In market research, that's called validation.
yeah. So you should try to check them out. See, how
Okay. Is that OLEPIC?
OLAPIC.
Great. Thank you.
Doug.
Are you going to Southwest Northwest?
No plans right now, but that's a great idea.
Yeah, dude. You saw Cover It Live just got breached, right? They just got hacked.
Was that right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great opportunity, isn't it?
Yeah.
In the back.
With the events, since I do events, there's a company called Ustreamed, and they do about 20 of our events in the state, and the pool industry, building and landscaping.
Repeat the question.
So if I was going to hire your company, and I have 4 of us going into our big event, annual event, I guess the question is, if I'm taking pictures there and send them socially over Facebook, what promotes this more than when I'm blogging? So I can go right onto my blog site, my pool info site, go directly to it. So it's going to help me organically. So I guess I'm asking you as the writer, I'm going to get on time, right there.
Yeah, so I think, if I understand you right, the question is what's the benefit to this over just blogging or just using Facebook?
Yeah, right now I'm with Mike and I'm taking pictures of the show and I'm going straight on. What's the advantage over that?
Well, the advantage right now, and I think Facebook is making some progress in doing real-time streaming. Others in the audience would know a lot better than I would. The advantage here is that you're not grounding this in a system that people have to subscribe to in the case of Facebook. In the case of blogging, this is real time. So unless your blog has a feature where it can show updates to the site within seconds or milliseconds of it happening, there would be a difference. So this would be ideal for a situation where there's going to be a lot of information coming in a very short amount of time. So if your event has like pieces of news that are separated by tens of minutes or 5 minutes, then possibly this isn't right for you. This would be ideal for cases where, say, like, you'd be watching.
And it comes every moment.
It comes every moment, yeah.
Jeff.
This sort of comes to the next question. A lot of people have messed up the scaling of this. I mean, they've done a lot of mistakes in this area. Have you thought of any ways, or do you think you've got that solved, or is that something still that...
If I understand the question, you're asking about the scaling of it? So the scaling of it, we believe that we have a very good solution for the foreseeable future. The work that we've done so far has been to make sure to just focus on getting enough scalability to the point where if that's a problem, it's a good problem to have. So we're in a position to allow tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of simultaneous viewers.
Right here.
Is there any system for moderation, or you can just
Well, that's a good question. The question is there any system for moderation? Right now, the idea and the whole premise behind the app is that you are only allowing the people who you invite and who would be part of your team to post. So while you can delete posts, the idea is that you would not allow people in who would not. So you have
a
viewers.
link for contributors and a link for viewers.
Exactly. There's a public-facing and a private-facing side of the app. So.
All right, Ajar,
I think there's one question.
I'm sorry, one more? Didn't see you back there. Just wave at me, say, hey.
Can you embed that page onto your own website?
Yeah. Yeah, there's actually a link to embed it, and so it would be very simple, or you could just use your own style for your own site, but it would just be that real-time streaming information that would come from updates. Yes?
And that's very positive, because if I have my WordPress site, I'm at my shop, 100 customers can't make it that day, they're busy, I link them to you, they look on the site, they get to see everyone's there, so we're giving them that lifetime information because they can come.
Exactly, and we don't want them to have to come to us. We want them to be able to just go to your website.
Very good.
Great.
Thanks very much.
Thank
Charles,
you all.
Acar, and Goose.
Coming up, Barry. We've got a bunch of really cool entrepreneurial events coming up, but the one I want to highlight the most is the A2NewTech for February. I'm here to scoop today. I had Newscast, I will be posting it on Newscast, that we'll see the return of Roger Rayle. He's going to give a talk on data-driven startups at this very podium on February 21st. That's always the third Tuesday. And what I want you to do, every one of you, since you are in possession of some really hot and exclusive information, is to go out and find someone and bring them to this talk. It's going to be at 6:30 in this very hall, at this very podium, with this very organizers and hopefully very you too. I am thrilled to introduce Perry Samson with his latest invention, and I have to tell you that there's very few people who take the podium here who are already on my droid. And Perry is one of them. His last startup, or actually it was a couple of startups ago, was a little company called, maybe you've heard of it, Weather Underground. Perry's here to do it again with LectureTools. Let's give it up for Perry Samson.
Thank you very much, though I feel somewhat disadvantaged.
You turned on?
Am I ever?
Turned on.
Live, what you want? Go?
Who walked off with my mic?
Hello? I have no, I can speak loudly. I'm disadvantaged because it's rare that a university faculty has ever spoken with only 5 minutes. It is unlikely I can do it, but I'll try. LectureTools is our latest effort here. LectureTools is about what do we do to improve the large classes. There's a problem at the universities that we spend a lot of time getting the best students to come to the University of Michigan and elsewhere, and then we dump them in these god-awful large classes with very poor learning environment. So we'd like to improve the quality of those large classrooms. We'd like to improve retention by knowing more about the students, how you're doing in class, even before the first exam. And lastly, we'd like to lower the cost of all the resources you need to have as students when you are in that classroom. So what we've done is taken on this issue of the increasing cost of the universities. Now, one option for the university would be to increase tuition. That would be very unpopular. So we try to go with some other things. We can increase enrollment, get more students in. We can increase the efficiency by having more students, having one instructor have more students. This is larger classes is one option. Cheaper labor, get GSIs to do the teaching, and to get adjunct faculty to do the teaching. All of what we're trying to do with LectureTools is provide a solution for those two. If you're going to have a larger class, you want to have a better class. And if you're going to have people coming in to teach the course, you want to maybe pre-populate the course with materials you want presented. So LectureTools does all those things. In addition to those, LectureTools may just show you what the student sees here. So the student has the capacity to see your slides as I'm presenting in class. And you can draw on my slides as I'm presenting in class. You can take notes synchronized to the slide here. You can indicate which slides you think are important as lecture is going on. You can indicate when you're confused in class. And that not only marks the slide for your own study, but also sends a signal to me in the front of the room so I see how many students are confused at this moment. We are communicating, even though there's hundreds of people in the classroom. Well, more than that, the students can ask questions. And they can pose a question. Those questions come streaming to my teaching assistant as I'm teaching. They can answer the questions. Everybody sees the questions and the answers. You don't see who asked the question. You can ask the dumb question. Fearlessly, you will get an answer. Unlike in many large classes I've been teaching for a long time. And it's usually like 4 or 5 in the front row, as it is here, who ask most of the questions. Now 2/3 of my class is asking questions during class. It's sobering. to know how confusing I've been all these years. We can also add to it textbooks, other resources you might use in class. We can link what you're doing in the classroom. Imagine you're typing your notes here, and instantly it'll link to the textbook, to what place in the textbook you can find the answers to that part. We can take the words on your slides, link that to the textbook online. We can connect your homework to the whole system, so you can go between your homework, your textbooks, your notes in class in one integrated system and search the whole bundle at once. We also have an iPad version. It illustrates one of the question types we have, which is an image-based question. We're going to ask, where's the wind speed going to be the highest today? My students are really, really spot on, aren't they? So we do all kinds of things. Okay, class, we want to improve the large class. If I ask instructors, we did this around University of Michigan, what's your biggest issue? The biggest issue is student engagement. How do I keep people engaged in these large classrooms? So what we try to do is we try to answer with LectureTools all the parts of the pie here except this part. We have no control over what you're doing. We ask the students, all right, if they all have laptops, what's the chance they're actually going to stay on task? And what we found is just kind of the opposite of what we expected. You know, the students say that when you actually take over their laptop and you use it for class, they're going to take notes and interact with you during class. They are far more engaged. They're taking it over your technology and using it in class for pedagogical reasons. Students like that. The students are saying for multiple semesters, multiple disciplines, they feel far more engaged when using this product. And the other option you have is use clickers. I don't know if any of you have ever used clickers in class. We're going to answer a question with one of these remote control things. Students like this a whole lot more than like that because you can do so many more things with it. I can also, student retention, so I know a lot more about my students. Who came to class? Who answered questions? Who got the questions right? I know the student comes up to me and says, I'm trying so hard. I go, actually, well, no, you're not. Look, you didn't come to class, you didn't do these things. I'll even know whether they opened the textbook, what pages they looked at. Should I know that? No. I looked up the philosophers. I think I should. I'm supposed to help these students through. You can take the textbook, and then you got your textbook online and be able to drag content from the textbook into your notebook and go back and forth between your textbook and your notes in class, between your homework and your textbook. And voila, we can do it all for less than $50. By fall, you'll be able to buy all your books at the University of Michigan for less than $50 using this kind of system. And that's a huge advance for the students. So, the market is huge. Could you believe how many big classes there are in this country? I mean, it's ridiculous. Like Arizona State, 600 classes, with more than 100 students in a class. We have a lot of these large classes out there, and we really need to do some help here. There are all kinds of systems that are preparing here. Student note-taking, student response we talked about. Other parts we're coming up with are connecting the network, connecting the notes of the textbook, etc. And we expect to do well. Thank you.
You're going to have a hail of questions, Perry, so I got to get mine in first.
Does it talk to C-Tools?
Yes, it's integrated with C-Tools with Blackboard removable. Oh, first, over here.
The licensing of the textbook, what happens to the text after that's over?
The student depends on the relationship they have with the university, but the student we hope would be able to have access to the book at least to the end of their time in school and potentially longer.
Here, and Jeff.
Suppose I'm not actually in lecture. Can I still log on and attend class?
The missing slide there was that we're also experimenting with broadcasting. You can broadcast your class live. You can sit anywhere now. In fact, if you're in my class, I give you extra credit for not coming to class and see how it affects your learning. So you can sit anywhere, watch the lecture live, and still take
What do you teach? I'll go back to school.
How many classes are using LectureTools right now, and how do you plan on scaling?
Yeah, right now, I don't know the numbers, to be honest. People here do know the answers. I think we're in about 60 or 70 classes in the fall, and it's growing dramatically this semester because we just got just at CES, and good things happen there.
I clicked the confuse button on the textbooks. How can you say that, $50 for textbooks? You don't own the textbooks, or how is that working?
Your question is what?
The text, you said $50 for all your textbooks.
$50 per textbook, yeah.
Yeah, $50 per textbook.
Yeah.
I mean, do you own the licenses for the textbooks? Do you have to license them?
The way it's going to work, and there's this new model you may have not heard of, the University of Indiana is doing this, where they negotiate with the publishers supply the textbook for a fixed price for the whole campus, and then we simply become the aggregator that delivers the textbook. So you pay a $50 student fee, and if you go through the model here, if all students pay that $50, the publisher actually makes more money than if you all paid $120 per book for that first semester and then use books after that.
Thank you.
Right here?
What's the competitive landscape look like?
Well,
Repeat the question.
the competitive landscape, there is at least one competitor in Canada that seems to be following us by about 3 weeks, doing things that we're doing. Beyond that, there weren't many competitors before this, and the fact that some are showing up is, as you said, was validation, I guess, for the fact that we're probably on the right track.
Right here. That's you.
Yeah, so I think you mentioned how many classes are using this. I was wondering what it takes to scale. So like what kind of process did you take to convince the University of Michigan to use the service, and do you have to do that process all over again for other many college student campuses? Like what does that process look like?
So the process is how we scale the marketing, or
how do you scale the business to use to other deploy to different universities?
Yeah, a lot of that comes down. I do a lot of talks around the country talking to the CIOs of the universities and such, and talk about how this would work with their system. We've got a very, very warm reception from many schools, and Big Ten in particular, who see value in this. So if we think it's in infancy, we're still learning how we can best apply this. We get some people who buy who are faculty, we get some who buy who have a course, some instructional technologists who buy for a department, and then we have some whole institution licenses. So we're still learning how to best go about that process. And by the way, I think the last slide, which begs anybody in the room who has skills in either programming or marketing, please come talk to me.
Are you thinking non-university-based corporate learning as a...
That's come up recently. We got a lot of requests very recently about that, so yes.
And where do we buy in?
Oh, you got a credit card, I got time, In the back.
Are you planning on seeing how this works in smaller groups, whether it increases the learning process?
An excellent question.
Just on large groups.
I've started with large groups. I mean, we've been asked about distance learning, we've been asked about small groups. We're having a hell of a time just with face-to-face and classrooms as it is. So we started with the large groups because the number I showed, over 1 million student courses there. If we could monetize that, we'd be doing well. So yes, in the small courses, there's still value, I think, in the interactions that can happen. The value of asking students and knowing what the students don't know is a huge value in that as you're going through a learning experience. So pedagogically, I think there's reasons to do that. On the other hand, I would argue in the small classes, the students ought to have the chutzpah to raise their hand and ask questions verbally and not have to use this kind of system. So we're still learning. So we're open to that, certainly open to that, yeah. And we have models for small classes they can easily buy in at a reasonable price.
Ed, squeak in before the buzzer.
Do you have any plans to kind of benchmark data between different universities? How many students show up for class and benchmark professors' scores?
Repeat the question.
The question is whether we can benchmark Michigan versus Ohio State.
Yes, that would be easy.
Well, we can obviously do that. We have no plans to do that. No, that would be, unless, no. It's tempting, isn't it? Great. Thank you very much.
And he got it in 5 minutes. All right, we had a no-show presenter today, and we're going to try to schedule the Ace Barter Exchange in later this year. I've asked Doug if he'll come up and give the pitch that he's been giving coast to coast and intergalactically to raise money for duo security. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to be a room full of investors. And at the end, we're going to shower him with money. Would you please come up, Doug, and give us the duo security pitch? And while he's setting up, I want to talk about a couple of the other events that are coming that are not A2NewTech events, but are still interesting to this particular room. Beginning this weekend, Startup Weekend at East Hall. Participants in a previous Startup Weekend, let me get hands, Kyle. All right, who wants to give me some adjectives for Startup Weekend?
Fun.
Fun.
Exciting.
Intense. You labor for 72 hours, you get a company. Boom. If only childbirth were so easy. That's this weekend. Go to AnnArbor.startupweekend.org to learn more about that. And then the premier entrepreneurial event of the year, the annual collaboration for entrepreneurship, the ACE-event.org takes place Tuesday the 31st at Skyline High School. Go to base-event.org to learn more about that. And then finally, build the plan, Chris Kamansky's landmark presentation for the Knights of Marketing Roundtable at knightsofmarketing.org. That's on Valentine's Day. Doug is our founder. Doug is our leader. We all have Doug. Doug, tell us how you're doing.
No clock.
So we're just filling in here, but it is true. We actually weren't out raising money. The way this happened is so interesting. I've not had a single day off between Christmas and now, so I got to find some time to take a break. But as often happens in business when you do partnerships, right? You find a partner that really likes you a lot, such that they will actually buy you. And that's basically what happened. We got a $10 million acquisition offer from a partner that we turned down, but ended up having, because of it, a preemptive Series A offer from an investor. And you guys will probably find out who the investor is in about a week when it's actually public. But we did go through the process, because when an investor comes and they want to throw a bunch of money at you, you at least try to clean up a little bit. And so this is the presentation that we put together for them. And I'll show you guys now, just so you guys can see sort of an outline of what a investor pitch looks like if you haven't seen one before. The investment we could have ended up taking was a $5 million round, and it's from a company you guys will all recognize when you hear about it. So just to kind of outline what we're doing and go over sort of solving the biggest problem in computer security today. Which right now is account takeover and online fraud. And you guys have seen probably the last 12 months or 18 months breaches in pretty much every vertical you can imagine across every industry. And it's happening because the hackers have figured out how to go about doing this in a way that's really, really profitable. I'll kind of get to that second. In terms of what we're doing, it's a little different. We're trying to make this really easy. There's an entire security industry out there worth billions of dollars that sells high-end companies, very expensive products. We aim to sell very simple products to everybody, including customers. There's below the so-called security poverty line that can't actually afford complicated solutions nor deploy them. And we put together what I think is a world-class team. Well, I know it's a world-class team to do this. Like just down here, and we're still 5 people, but have it's been very busy 2 years. It's our 2-year anniversary, actually. So the problem we're solving, and an investor pitch is probably the most important thing to leave an investor with. Not even anything about the company or what we do, but the problem you're solving. Because if they don't even understand the problem, they won't remember you at all. If they remember the problem, if they come across it again, they'll think back, oh yeah, I remember there's a company solving that problem. So the most important thing is to make sure that you understand what the company is solving. And in our case, this is a horrible slide, it's way too busy. But it's a leave behind. This is a deck that we actually give to an investor to look at. But it basically highlights the strategy that attackers have actually going after users, not systems. And that's the way that increasingly attackers are penetrating the world of large organizations. They find users to attack, and those endpoints are how they ride into any company. And it's kind of like tailgating, kind of someone that's opening the door in front of you.
That's the staff for hack.
What's that?
That's the staff for hack.
Stratford, any hack really did it today, for the most part. But there's a few exceptions. But the trend that we see is really that in the last 5 years, there's been an explosion in the number of pieces of malware we see that people are sending. So if you open your inbox, your spam folder is full of this stuff. But there's an explosion in the number of variants of this stuff, which has led directly to the rise of these unexplainable financial crimes that have affected all these public companies, reported by the Delaware Financial Crime Enforcement Network. And so the result has been that it's been pretty devastating. Pretty much every company in the world has a problem, which is good for us. I mean, really, anyone who has anything to protect the logins or a potential customer. And by this point, in the last 12 months, we've seen everybody. It's been more than that. We started doing it about 2 years ago, and by now it's pretty much mainstream. I think when we were first pitching a company, these sort of security
happening in the broad market, these days you go to the newspaper and see just a new company being reached every day. So how do we solve this problem? Our solution is actually a very old technology, generally speaking, two-factor authentication. That you have some sort of piece of hardware that protects your login aside from just your knowledge-based factor. Because the knowledge-based factor, password, passphrase, what have you, can be stolen, lost, shared, intercepted, whereas this hardware can't, it's not equal. And so what we've seen also in the intervening years is that this has increasingly become the de facto solution for account security on the web, where folks like World of Warcraft have hardware tokens, PayPal has a hardware token, Google has a mobile authenticator, Facebook also has a mobile authenticator. And as we've seen this go mainstream, even the most obvious companies are starting to catch up and understand that this is sort of the price of admission to do business on the internet today. You really have to have some way to protect your assets. The traditional solutions have not really worked at scale. The traditional hardware devices are just a nightmare to manage. You can manage, for instance, in any regional-sized enterprise, having a little tiny piece of hardware that you have to maintain inventory for and track across all your users. When they lose them, they break them, they get out of sync. It's just horrible. And so no one really likes to use this stuff. And curiously enough, Pure Life coincidence us where the month that we launched the company in March of last year, our largest competitor, RSA, which is bought by EMC for $2 billion back in 2006, was breached. And the one email that they got from a Chinese organ that basically opened up their organization like a can of worms was this one right here. Our forwarders file to you for your review. Please open and view it. And of course, someone did do that. And of course, the entire network was then breached, leading to the compromise of all the token seeds, all the secrets that actually seed those devices, and recall 43 million pieces of hardware. So the 25 million customers now looking for solutions and they're fighting us. And it wasn't us. We didn't do it. And there's been lots of attempts since then. There's a lot of crazy kind of solutions out there, these kind of crazy software things that no one seems to understand. A lot of things that are not, they just don't really work. Even in Facebook, they experimented with some different account recovery mechanisms like these sort of social account authentication factors that didn't really work. Who's that red thing there? I don't really know. And so we sort of position ourselves to be a solution that actually is a lot more dynamic and flexible in terms of the kinds of things that we can emit, but a lot easier to provide. You always want to have a slide like this. So, also, Roger, something I'm going to ask you to turn off the video. I'll give you some stuff that you can stop now, but maybe easier. This is the way to sort of see yourself against a competition. A lot of these companies have changed names in the last year, but there's been pretty heavy acquisitions in the space. So, for instance, Equifax, that used to be a company called Acar, it was much smaller. What else here? CA is on here, but CA bought Acar for $2 million. So there's been a lot of consolidation in the industry, which it leads to a good outcome hopefully for us, and that there's a good potential for acquisition, but on our terms, where we want to go for $2 million. And so the general story of what we're doing is we're making two-factor authentication easy by making a modern solution that's built for the web. So it's really elegant, drop-in, self-service, etc. It's actually secure, and that's because we're experienced. I'll skip over all how this works. This is all sort of, we basically use a mobile phone in various mechanisms, and this is where we drop very quickly the demo. The demo isn't really the need of any kind of pitch, right? But, if you have something that works, it's much more compelling than just talking about it. That's what we do. And at this point, I'd like to turn off the slide.